where the West begins in Fort Worth, Texas, to around the globe. You are listening to Talk of the Night. And now, your host, Paranormal Phil. Thank you, and good evening, good morning, wherever you may be around the world, around the globe, or even in your own backyard. I am Paranormal Phil, and later on in the show tonight, we're going to be joined by my guest, Lindy Baker, as we talk about psychic abilities. We're going to talk about her work as a life coach, talk about her psychic abilities, a platform that she created, super intuition, a metaphysical, motivational, and inspirational life coaching program, and we'll even get into energy, emotional release, and energy balancing. But first, up on the Talk of the Night website, under the story of the day, I cannot talk for some reason tonight. What happens when you have your chakras balanced? When it comes to health, wellness, and having balanced energy, it is time to look at the chakra. When most people look at their health, they are not looking at their chakra. So how do people focus on that and balance it to not only have a healthy energy level, but also a physical and emotional balanced life? The treatment often features singing crystal bowls and herbalist aromatherapy. So, what is the chakra? For that, we turn to many sources, but for this, we ask, I did read that right, turn to many sources, but for this, we ask medical anesthesian and spiritual healer Marshall Tabe, who says chakras are the energy system throughout the body. There are three major functions they control: physical, psychological, and spiritual, Tabe says. And of course, you can read the full story up on the Talk of the Night website by clicking on the link below the story, and it'll take you right to talkofthenight.com. So let's get a little into about our guest before we bring her on. Lindy Baker, MED, is more than a master clairvoyant and life coach, emotional code practitioner, published author, and columnist. She's also a stand-up comedian, the first comedian in 13 seasons to win Mary's Got Talent. Lindy's accolades: Globe Magazine Top 10 Psychics in the U.S., Favorite Psychic Medium, About.com, Readers Contest, WB5 News San Diego Best Psychic. Her Astroblog advice column appeared in Fun and Fit Life magazine of Las Vegas for decades. For her volunteer efforts as a rape and assault counselor, Lindy was awarded a Public Service Award by the Stark County Prosecutor's Office. Her efforts helped establish the first victim witness assistance program in the U.S. She has been called to many homicide departments in Southern California to assist in high-profile cases and is now working on these to be produced as a feature film. So please welcome to the show my guest, Lindy Baker.
Well, hello.
Hello, how are you doing?
Out there, and hello to you, Phil.
Hello. So, tell the listeners a little bit about yourself, other than what I've read there.
That is quite a task for me to tell a little bit. For me to tell a little bit.
I only got 2 hours.
I fulfill it. So, well, I think one of the things that I would like to start with is, yes, I was born psychic, and so I didn't know that I was different than other people until I started getting into 13, 14 years old, and then you start finding out that other people don't think like you do. And I think that's something important for a lot of your listeners to know out there, too, that they might have some kind of a label put on them, whether it's ADD, ADHD, something like that, when they don't really belong in that category, but instead that their mind works differently. And so they would be like psychic or clairvoyant and pick up some things. I'm the oldest of 13 children from Ohio, and I escaped Ohio when I was around 26 and landed in California. Lived in California off and on for about 30 years. Spent a year in Austin, a year in Scottsdale, Arizona, and now I'm back in Las Vegas for the second round, living and being happy in this exciting land of Las Vegas.
Yeah,
So do you need to know more?
Yeah, no, that's good. I mean, I've moved all over the place myself. I was born in Southern California. I lived in Northern California. I've lived in Nashville, Tennessee. I went to boot camp up in Great Lakes, Chicago area. Was stationed in Norfolk, Virginia. I've been all around the world in the military. I've lived up in Wyoming. So I've lived a couple places in Texas, San Antonio, and just south of here in 98 in a small community of Joshua. Now I live in Fort Worth, and I don't plan on leaving Texas unless I'm going for a visit out to California.
I really like San Antonio. I only got to visit that city twice, but I really liked it. So I liked Austin too, but the difficulty in Texas, in Austin, was the cedar trees, and I had really severe allergies to the cedar trees, so my eyes were practically swollen shut all the time, and it's a good thing I could do readings with my eyes shut.
Well, I know how it is. I mean, like I said, I grew up in Southern California, so I was growing up, I was allergic to all the trees in Riverside, California.
Oh.
And coming here, the allergies mess with me with the whole cedar trees. So I don't win for anything. But I do love the weather. I mean, it took a while getting used to the humidity here, but at least it's not Houston humidity, so I'm good there. Or Great Lakes humidity.
I was in Harlingen, Texas for about 6 months. I was taking care of my adopted mother who had pancreatic cancer, and I used to tease her and say, well, Mom, I'm going to get in the shower to get dry now.
Yeah.
Because of the humidity.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's not as bad as Houston or Chicago, so, I mean, it's doable. But you mentioned that you were born psychic, but when did you first realize that you had those psychic abilities?
I didn't realize that they were, quote, psychic abilities till I was around 14, 15 years old. Because again, there's no way that you could know that that's what your problem is. Yeah. But by the time I was 7 or 8 years old, I already knew to gauge my behaviors so that they wouldn't be odd or, scary to other people. I would, one of the memories that really sticks out for me is when I was about, I think, 6 or 7 years old, and I was playing in a field, which you could do back in those days. And I was playing in this field, making some mud pies and some kind of things like that. And I knew that a guy was behind me, and I knew that he did not mean good, that I was in jeopardy somehow or another. And I found myself, as I'm playing with these mud pies, thinking, when should I turn and let him know that I know he's there? And so I was already gauging what my reactions should be. And I waited then until he was almost up to me before I turned. And that's the end of that memory. I don't think he did end up harming me. It may be that I ran away. The next important time that really stands out in my life is I was 15, and I was working at an amusement park, Myers Lake Amusement Park. And I had a girlfriend. We were both, she was a majorette, I was a rockette, and we decided to get these summer jobs when we were juniors in high school. And we had a lot of fun. We were singing, dancing, etc. They had us in the same booth there. And the supervisor decided he didn't like that, decided to split us up. And so where they sent me was clear to the edge of the park where the roller coaster was. And they stuck me in a booth where you guessed people's weight and age. And that's the booth that they stuck me in. And one day, the park owner was standing there watching me all day long, and I'll include this little thing in there. I was stealing quarters. So I'm embarrassed to admit that, but that's the way it was. And so it was kind of like 10 for them, 1 for me, 10 for them, 1 for me kind of thing. So I thought that I'd been caught, and so I was thinking about all the different ways my father would kill me. And the man came up to me and he said, I've been watching you all day, and that they'd been turned into the state for like, false practices or something like that. I don't recall the exact name for that. And he asked me, how is it that you do what you do? You never give away a prize. You're always getting these right. You're never giving away a prize. And I had to think about that because it never dawned on me that there was anything right or wrong about that. I was just doing what I naturally would do. So the people, if it was going to be, they decided whether it was weight or age. And so I would have a little small pad of paper. They had one too. If it was about their age, they would write down their age, and I would write down what I thought their age was, and then we would show what the age was. And it had to be, I think it had to be within 3 years. And the same thing, I think, with the weight. I think it had to be within 5 pounds, I think. And so when he asked me how I did that, I thought I had some kind of formula in my head. I weighed probably 90 pounds at the time. So I thought maybe when it came to weight, I would look at a person and go, okay, they're twice as wide as me. That makes it, 180 or, and they're taller than me. So add, 20 pounds for that. But when I was trying to explain to him what my formula was, I realized there wasn't any formula. I realized that the instant that person walked up, I already knew the answer. That I didn't really even have to think about the answer. It was just there. And so I would write down whatever the thought was that popped in my head. So that was the biggest outstanding thing. And it really shook me to my psychological roots. That it was like, oh my God, how can I do something like that? And I think so many of us are programmed to really question ourselves when we have any kind of ability over and above, like, say, what the status quo is supposed to be. I'm sure that people who are snaps at math, that even when they maybe come up with an answer, it doesn't really register with them that they're as expert as what they are, that they, have some kind of a major skill. So it really affected me in a very uncomfortable type of a way. I found myself really withdrawing from people and getting very quiet because I really didn't know what to do with it. I was starting to realize that this was something much different than the way that other people thought. And at that time, too, the only people that would have been, quote, like a psychic, I remember there was some gypsy lady by our house that had some kind of a little shop. And people would go in there to get readings. And so my mom would talk about it and, say what a fraud that they were and the work of the devil. And not for 1 second did I ever think I had anything at all to do with who that person was. She
Yeah.
was, she was something that I was not. And
Yeah.
so and I hung around a lot with the nuns. We went to Catholic school, got lots of jokes about that. And so I went to Catholic school, and I enjoyed hanging out with the nuns. And surprisingly, I've had, people in my lifetime that have said, well, I'm Catholic, so, I can't get a reading or anything because of my faith. But the interesting thing was that the nuns were completely supportive of me.
Yeah.
That especially one in particular, Margaret Mary, she gave me a special prayer book, and she was one of the first people. I can't remember what grade I had her for, 6th or 7th, and she was one of the few people. It's like that she wanted to be very protective of me, and would say things. She didn't quite. She kind of referred to it as a gift in a way, like special. And she just said that, I was born special, and not to allow anyone to, persecute me for who I was. And she was a great comfort to me. In fact, her and another of the nuns, even into my 20s, there was another nun that went by the name of Peach, and she would write to me every once in a while also and say, are you still doing, the great work that you're doing? Are you still helping people? What are you up to? How's your husband? How are your kids? That kind of thing. So I hope that answers your question.
Oh, yeah, it did. I mean, for me, I had my first experience when I was 5 years old. Like I said, I had gone out to the kitchen for a glass of milk or something like that. I forget what it was. I forget that part, but I went out there around midnight. My parents were asleep. I was always the troublemaker in my family, and the daredevil. But I went out there to grab a glass of milk, and I noticed this little boy playing on the top of the refrigerator with a ball. Now, kids that age might be frightened or something like that. Me, no, I was like, come down here, I want to play too. But my mom was able to see spirits, so she knew I was able to communicate with them, and she validated that experience when I was young, to where most people will tell their kids, well, it's just their or other people even, that it's just their imagination. It's an imaginary friend. It's nothing's there, and that ability gets pushed from our third eye back into our deepest part of our subconscious, but it's still always there. It's just locked away, and some people just don't know how to open up that ability.
I believe everybody's psychic. And what I compare it to is everybody can sing. Some people can't carry a tune in a bucket. Other people can sing opera. Some people can go, and with training, they can go from being the person that can't carry a tune in a bucket to a person that can sing opera. And so that's the way that I believe about psychic ability. I do believe it's that everybody has it. If you have a brain, if you were born with a mind, you've got it. And that, to me, it is your survival instinct. That when God created man, he said, this is in my image and likeness. That's what he was talking about. And that it was meant to help us protect ourselves from the challenges on earth. So, if everybody had been listening to Noah, understood, but, he was just a plain old carpenter. He was just a plain old person like I was. And he was a plain old carpenter. And he had a vision that there was going to be this major flood. And so he started building an ark in the middle of the desert. There was not anything that was special about him. He wasn't studying to be some kind of a major person in the church or anything like that. So that's my belief, that if all of us really opened up and allowed our brain to do what it wants to do in combination with that intuition, then we would know things like COVID were coming up and would think about things to do with it before it got here. We would know whether, we'd pay attention to it, that if we're getting on a plane, we've got this really bad feeling, and so we don't get on the plane. Or like a fire sweeping an area, if everybody was in tune to their psychic ability, they would know that that danger exists, and they could all group together to do whatever it is that they had to do. Sandbags, or making sure that water could reach that area, so on and so forth. Yeah. And to me, that's what it's all about. And some people are just better at it than other people.
Yeah, well, the way I describe it, and I've mentioned it many times on my program, but this is for any new listeners to the show. If you got kids, have them tune away, because I don't want to destroy their reality. Just because of the way I describe it. I describe it in a way that helps people understand it better. So I coined the term, I want to say about 10 years ago, maybe more, the Santa Claus effect. And the way I describe it to people that everybody has this ability is when we're young, we're told Santa Claus is real. As we get older, we're told that he's not real. And that ability, that thought process gets put, like I said, back to our subconscious where we forget all about it, but it's still there. Same thing with the spirit world. Everybody can see and communicate with spirits, and as we get older, we're told that it's not real, it's just our imagination, stuff like that. Some people are. Some people, like me, where it was validated, but that ability gets pushed back to the deepest subconscious, and we can all open that third eye and see this stuff, bring out our intuition, but there are some people that choose not to. There are some people that are scared that opening that third eye might bring something in, and I try to help people understand that the best that I can, especially by bringing on guests like yourself.
I agree with that, but I think programming has everything to do with it. I think it's really wonderful that the kids have had shows like Harry Potter, other things like that the parents are taking them to, because it opens them up to be able to accept, magical, or accept something that's different than their own reality, than the reality that you're taught. And so I think a lot of people are taught to be afraid of something that is natural with them, and they do suppress it and repress it and have fears surrounding around it that they shouldn't have. And I can jump to a lot of things. I could tell you I am so glad that I talk to Spirit all the time. And I am so glad for that, because 5 years ago, in fact, I'm celebrating this week, because 5 years ago, when I was undergoing radiation with proton beam radiation. I like to talk about proton beam radiation so other people know it is out there, and it's much better than regular radiation. It can really help you. I had breast cancer, and so Spirit had come, and they were going, you have cancer, you have cancer, you have cancer. And then, I have this sense of humor with them. They accept me for the crazy gal I am. And I said, don't just tell me I got cancer, for God's sake. Finally, just spit it out and tell me what kind of damn cancer I got, so I know what kind of doctor to go to. And 2 days later, I got a thing in the mail for me to go get a mammogram. And I said, okay. So I went and got the mammogram. It showed the breast cancer, and so on and forth. But along with that same kind of thing, being open to my intuition, I also had where I just didn't feel right about what the doctor was going to do. And he was supposedly one of the top surgeons, Loma Linda Hospital, to do with breast cancer, and he wanted to remove my breast And it just didn't feel right to me. And so I prayed on it and said, hey, Spirit, you got to help me with this. This one's pretty heavy duty because I don't want to make a mistake and end up, killing myself or being in pain. And, but I don't feel right about this, and you need to handle this for me. And I can verify this, that surgery was supposed to be October 28th. And on October 27th, I got a call from the doctor late at night, 9 or 10 o'clock at night, and he said, we have to cancel your surgery, that the equipment broke down and new one isn't going to be in until a month or 6 weeks, so we're going to have to reschedule your surgery for that time. Wow. So to me, it was like Spirit spoke. I mean, that was beyond even coincidental, right? Yeah. And so at that point, then I had a lot of other research, et cetera, that I started doing. And what I will say is what I ended up with is I'm going to say only, but I ended up with them only removing the tumor and only removing one of the sentinel lymph nodes, because of the fact that I now researched it and found out that for my teeny tiny tumor, I did not need to have a breast removed. And also, they want to go in and remove all of your lymph nodes, which to me, if it's not broke, don't fix it.
Yeah.
If it's not broken, let it alone. And they said, no, you want to have these removed in case the cancer comes back. And that, again, didn't make any sense to me at all, because why would I do that? The lymph nodes there to clear things from your body. So on 5 years, I had the proton beam radiation, and I'm fine. And with proton beam radiation, there's no side effects, except that I do now glow in the dark.
Poor Mr. Burns when he's glowing in the dark in the forest. For the younger viewers.
And I can also see in the dark like a cat.
I've been able to do that for a long time. I mean, heck, it's, when I was in the Navy, when you're out to sea, they do not have lights on the deck on the ship. They got a red light in the center where you can go into the ship, but on the deck itself, it's completely dark. And you're out to sea in complete pitch darkness, and I would be able to. We would have contests where see who could get around the deck the quickest, and I would be running around the deck while everybody else is like holding on to the railing and walking. Like, how the hell do you do that? I was like, shit, I got cat eyes. What can I say?
I can't even imagine being on a ship like like our servicemen are. And so I do want to take that little opportunity to tell them all thank you for the service. And even more than that, I think we need to also start thanking their families, the moms and the kids, and the dads too, because we have a lot of women in the military that have to have their, be separated for their family.
Oh, yeah.
For such long lengths of time, too.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I've spent many 2 med cruises, which were 6 months each out to sea, and I wasn't back in home port until after that 6-month cruise. So, I mean, it's quite a bit of distance away. And then, of course, nowadays they got the phone number, phones and technology to get a hold of their family. Back when I was in the mid-90s, we didn't have that. We were lucky if we got one satellite call every once in a while. It was usually sending letters back and forth, and that took a while. So, I mean, there's a lot more out there for the service members to get a hold of their families nowadays, where back then there wasn't. But I want to get more into your abilities and so much more. But we're going to take this short, quick commercial break. But we'll be right back after this commercial break with my guest, Lindy Baker, as we talk about psychic abilities, energy healing, and emotional release. We'll be right back.
Lots of keys expectations. No, I'm building my own name. Don't lock me up, don't lock me up. I've got so much more to give. Don't lock me up. Am I not?
Do you have a talk radio, Facebook Live, or YouTube show and would like guests for your show but don't know where to go to get them? Well, go to radioguestlist.com and sign up today. They have all different experts in different fields, and you can find the ones that are just right for your show. That's radioguestlist.com. Sign up today. It's free.
To advertise on Talk in the Night, send an email to talkinthe.night@outlook.com. Talk in the Night has plans to fit your budget. Get your product or business heard around the world by the Talk in the Night listening audience. Plans include 30-second spots and banner ads on the show's website and mentioned on the social media sites. So get your product or business heard around the world today. Shop the Talk in the Night merch store today and pick up one of the many products with 9 different designs to choose from. The store has men's and women's apparel, drinkware, houseware, and accessories. Pick up a t-shirt, coffee mug, or anything else on there and support the show today. Go to talkinthe.night.com to find a link to the merch store.
Somebody who matters, and I wanna see the world from higher heights, and I wanna dream and watch in different shadows. Could it be that we could make it right? Oh, we've got everything we need just to change the future. You know it's buried deep inside our chest. If we weren't so afraid to
And now, back to Talk in the Night with your host, Paranormal Phil. Okay, and we are back with my guest, Lindy Baker. And before we get back into things with her, I want to mention the speaker chat is open. So if you want to come in, discuss the chat, discuss the show and everything like that, I do interact with all my listeners. I do want to welcome Nicole and Vicky to the chat. And anybody else that wants to come into the chat, I welcome that too. If you got questions for my guests, feel free to ask them, and I will ask them in the second hour. Also, we'll have phone calls during the second hour if you want to call in and ask her questions too. So, I did want to get into something that I saw on your website mention that mentions that you are able to see future and past events. Can you tell us what that's like and what some of the things that you have seen?
For future and past events?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the most life-changing one for me was seeing and talking about that there was going to be this bombing in New York City at the Twin Towers, and as a result of that there would be around a massive amount of deaths, like 5,000 deaths, and that it was going to change the history of the world. It was going to affect all people of the world. And my being what I call a little guppy in a great big huge sea, I didn't have access to, here's a big press release from Lindy Baker in regard to this. That I did. My daughter happened to work at a Navy SEAL bar at the time, and so she had a lot of Navy SEALs around her. She was a bartender there. And there were a couple of them in particular. They knew who I was. They knew what I did for a living. They knew what I did for work. They knew I was a psychic. And they were very respectful of that. And one of them in particular that I believe that he'd left the Navy, but now he was working in some kind of a secret capacity. I went to him and I had a conversation with him, and I said, I don't know who you can get this information to, but I'm getting this, and I really and truly believe that it can be stopped, or at least I want to give it a good try, that it could be stopped. I think I even did send an email to the White House at the time, and I just kept having these visions, and as the date got even closer, it was like spirits were just chattering constantly, to the point that I actually had to say to them, please shut up, please be quiet. I need to sleep. There's nothing that I can do about this. And so on the morning of September 11th, a friend called me and said, hey, turn on your TV really fast. She knew that I had predicted it and talked about it to anybody that would listen. And there it was, unfolding right in front of my eyes. And at the time, we'd both come out kind of like at the same time and come up together with Sylvia Brown. And Sylvia Brown was all over, by that time, Montel Williams and everything else like that. And I thought, here she is. She's out here as a public figure, because I don't really like being that public. My attitude is I have a job to do, and I can't handle all that interference and do my job right, too. And my thought was, you're supposed to be so awesome. You're out there. You got Montel Williams and everything else, and I can't believe you didn't see this too. Yeah. That I can't, And here it was unfolding, and I was just so emotionally upset about it. But at the same time, it changed something inside me forever. And this is what I would say: no one will ever make me question who I am or what my capabilities are from that date forward. And I had quite a few clients who had recordings of me talking about that we were going to go into the war, which was the Afghan war, and about the Twin Towers. And one of them actually wrote out an affidavit for me. I called him and I said, do you have this on a recording? Because I wanted to replay it for myself. At that time, I still record people's sessions for them as a standard practice. But at that time, many of my clients had me go to their home. And so I would record it for them and leave the recording with them. And so I asked them if they had it on there, because I could remember telling the one person, because I wasn't into politics. So I can't remember telling them, it's like Big Ben. Big Ben, that's who did this, is Big Ben. So I didn't know the name Osama bin Laden, to be able to recognize that as the person who did it, and it probably as having psychic ability too, that if you don't know a name, it's very hard to get one. And, if you're not familiar, say, with politics, you might get, president or Arabian, but not, who the person was. And so I do have an affidavit from one of my clients, and he did send me the recording that I have someplace here in my file that substantiate that I most certainly did see that and predict that. But because I'm just a little guppy in a big sea, I did not have the ability to stop it. And I think we have this question about, destiny and free will anyway. So maybe it was a destiny kind of thing that I wasn't meant to be able, to stop it, to be able to get the information out there about it. But when we look at it and we look at all of the things that having that happen changed here in the United States, the way that we do flights, even, with the banking cautions, that kind of stuff. I can't think of the name of it right now. The policy that was passed that if you had X amount of money, I think it was the Patriots Act, where, banks started paying attention to if you had a deposit over whatever it was, $1,000 or some kind of thing like that, because they were trying to track where all of the money came from and was going for that. So that's the biggest one in my life. One of the things that I do in my sessions is there is this fine line between free will and destiny. And I think so many people don't understand that there's many people who feel that somehow or another they came with a script in their life that dictates every single word that they're going to say or everything that they do. And what I've found is, no, that just doesn't happen. What we would just be robots if that happened. There would be no sense in us, living life as a human being if we didn't have any control over the decisions, etc. In fact, I actually believe when people say, "But why do you come to Earth?" I think it's because you need practice in getting over hurdles.
Yeah. Well, for me,
life is.
Go ahead. I'll let you finish here.
Life is a course in getting over hurdles.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Now, for me, one of my biggest thing, and it's probably one of my strongest abilities, is to notice things. But for me, I predicted the path of Hurricane Katrina before it even hit the east coast of Florida. I was working at a Western wear store out in Riverside, California, and we were watching the weather because we knew it was headed towards the U.S. We knew it was going to come towards the Gulf of Mexico. People thought it was going to head up and hit North Carolina, and they were showing a map of the U.S. on the TV screen, and I looked at the screen and I pointed to, I forget the town name now, but I pointed to that town in Mississippi. I said, that's where the eye of the storm is going to hit. Before it even hit East Coast Florida, people are like, how do you know that? I mean, they're saying it's going to head up the coast. I'm like, no, that's exactly where it's going to hit. Sure enough, that's where it hit.
Yep, and that's a perfect example to me of why everybody should open up and accept this intuition, this psychic ability, because if everybody get on the same page, just think how many people would have got a vibe on that and would have said, hey, we can't really stop this hurricane, but what we can do is be better prepared for it. That, maybe stockpiling food, figuring out
people getting out of New Orleans.
Sandbags. Yeah.
Stuff like that. And I mean, but there was nobody, people did not want to believe it, but they believed it when it happened. And like, I tried to tell you guys.
Right. I've had that many times. In fact, I just had one of my clients, and I posted it on my Facebook that she'd gotten in touch. She had called me, and she was going to be going on a trip. And I had told her, no, I get such a bad vibe on that. No. And I'm concerned about your husband and, so on and so forth. And so when she got back from the trip, which was like 3 weeks later than what she was supposed to get back, because she ended up, her and her husband got COVID, and they had to stay in Europe for 3 weeks before they were allowed to travel back to the United States. So, and they were vaccinated and boosted. So, that's the I feel like I want to mention this too, because to me it's kind of like a crack up, and you've probably had it too. But people who lie to their psychic, I love that. I love it simply because, isn't that cute? At least the at least the lady did call and cancel her appointment, right? But she says, oh, I have to cancel my appointment because my daughter isn't back with the car yet. And I knew that she was out shopping at a mall and was just busy shopping and decided she didn't want to keep the appointment. So I'm glad she respected me enough to cancel.
Yeah. Well, see, I've never really got into doing what you do as far as doing readings that way. I've helped people, just individuals that I knew and stuff like that. I mean, I went a different direction. I went with the whole radio show. And I figure I can help a lot more people that way. But I want to ask this question because I don't know about you, but I know for me, the word psychic just sounds generalized. And I don't know if you have another word that you like to use. For me, I like to use the term hyper empath. Just because I can read people a lot better than I do see and communicate with the spirits. I can feel them, I can hear them, I can all that good stuff. But it's heightened even more. And I didn't know if there was like another term that you like to use.
Well, as for me being a spirit medium in my comedy routine, I tell people if that makes you uncomfortable that I'm a spirit medium, you can always think of me as the extra large medium.
Yeah, I heard that earlier.
But I agree with you on the psychic. I do agree with you on the word psychic. To me, it connotes something that I don't think I am. To me, it's always it's had more of a negative connotation because you do have a lot of scammers out there that they know enough about human behavior that they and about superstition that they can get people to believe them and send them large amounts of money. I've got 2 or 3 different thoughts of various people that have come to me. I had one person who came to me, and the person convinced them that they had various healing abilities and that kind of stuff. And he only turned to me when she started asking for him to cash out his 401k to give her $100,000. And only at that point did his gut really click in and go, no, there's something seriously wrong here. Yeah. And I've had others. I had one gal come to me. She had paid some psychic $5,000. Wow. And she because this had to do with a relationship that this psychic was giving her advice over this relationship, and she hit on enough accurate things that the woman was afraid to not pay her, that she set it up somehow or another. Well, like if you don't pay me, then all this black energy is going to come in and all of these other kind of things are going to happen to you. And she was afraid to chance it. And that was when she found me on the internet and came. And so we were able to turn some things around for her in her life. And amazing to me is the lack of an ability to have some of these people arrested for the fraud that they're propagating, for the really abuse of people emotionally. They're stealing from people that, they're very fraudulent. And so to me, that is why I referred to myself as a clairvoyant, which in French means to see. Yeah. And I started using that to attempt to separate to people. I'm not one of them. I'm not one of those, quote, psychics. I'm a clairvoyant. And I know a lot of people claim to be like a psychic life coach, but what I would tell people is when you introduced me and you said M.ed, I have a master's degree in cross-cultural teaching. So to me, I'm really qualified for life coaching. I've also got a master's in NLP, neurolinguistics. So so I've acquired the tools to really be able to work with people in a true life coach capacity. So I wanted to point that out too.
Yeah, and of course, I forget what show I did, but I had a story the other day, and it's up on the show's website, talkofthenight.com, under past stories of the day. You can kind of scroll through all of them and see what there is, but I haven't added titles to them, so it's kind of hard. You just click on the picture, and if it looks interesting, you can read the story, but I gotta start adding titles to them so people know what they are. But there was a person, I'm looking at the story now, 60s and 70s, a supposed psychic medium, M. Lamar Keene, who basically scammed a lady because the lady had a deceased 17-year-old son, and he scammed her out of thousands of dollars and everything like that. And he went to the home, and when she asked him about her son and what secret name he had used for her, he pretended that he had a headache, went up to her bedroom to lie down because he asked if he could lie down, and while he was up there supposedly lying down, he was searching through all her stuff and found the name scribbled in a family Bible, and then came down later and gave that to her, and she bought into it. Now, personally, I would not allow anybody that is doing a reading for me to get out of my sight, because I know that they could be looking for different clues, and it's like, yeah, no, if you can't tell me you're here and there, I know no psychic is ever going to be 100% right. I know that much. Because if we were, we would all be a lot of millionaires and living in luxury while everybody else was struggling. But no, that's not us. We're here to help people, and we're never, ever going to get everything 100% right.
That's correct. That's correct. And also, again, that's where the free will thing comes in, too. Because there are some people that are even oppositional, and you could tell them, this is what you're going to do, and they have this oppositional thing that it's an unconscious control, that they'll actually do the opposite of whatever it is that you're telling them to do. And so also I wanted to mention, because you mentioned that about lotto and picking the lotto, and that's something that I'm really putting out there a lot lately on this thing about lotto balls and why I don't win lottos and quit work. Well, for one, I asked Spirit if I could please do that, and they said no, you become too complacent and you wouldn't want to help people with readings anymore. So, okay, that's true. I would not. The second thing is to read for, to get lotto numbers for other people. The lotto balls themselves are inanimate objects. That means they have no life in them. They don't have, aura. They do have energy. Everything has energy. Yeah. But that would be the same as if I could read a table or I could read a desk. I can read a book. I can do that. But for those lotto balls, they have no energy to read. What I read are peak emotional experiences. And so it's kind of a complicated thing. But what I envision is your timeline, a timeline that goes to your past, and it stretches out to your future. And as I'm envisioning that in my mind, I will go across and I'll see, like, say, an explosion of energy on that line. And then I look and I go, okay, where's that at? Oh, 34 years old. That's at 34 years old. And so this is what is supposed to be going on with you at 34 years old. And what I work with a lot is if we get something bad or something negative, I'm definitely going to tell you because we want to change it. That's what we want to do. So we want to look at, can I change an attitude? Do I have to change a behavior? Like I'll give an example. If like I saw you being in a major automobile accident, well, you got a lot of free will choices with that. You can buy insurance, make sure that you have your car insurance paid up. You could stay home. You could take a different road. You could, be very, very careful when you're in your car. So you see, you have many opportunities to change that major car.
Yeah, that
accident.
path is not all. The future path is not always set.
Right.
It's got different branches that you can take, and that is the way I see it. Is it's like a guiding. What is the word I'm looking for? But a guiding decision that you can choose which way you want to go in the future. It's not set in stone until you hit that point.
Right. And the way that I would explain for people the difference between destiny and free will. Okay, so let's say that your destiny is to go from California to Chicago. That's your destiny. So in the meantime, what you get to do is you could choose if you're going by car, if you're going by train, if you're going by bus, if you're going to walk, if you're going to fly. Then you also get to choose if you're going in a car, you could choose if you're going in your car, a rental car, a friend's car. You can choose if you're going Route 10, Route 30, Route 40, Route 86, whatever. And so in life, that you will have, many people have what I call a destiny. But the destiny isn't like, oh, I was meant to be a king, I was meant to be a queen, I was meant to be a movie star. It has more to do that there's other elements in there that are what you're really here for. And I do think that astrology helps in that kind of way if you actually do a real astrology chart. Not these computerized things, but a real one, will be able to help you focus more on what I call overlays. And I'll give an example. Like in my life, one of my overlays has to do with inspiration. So there's some facets to inspiration. For example, how can you do inspiration if you stay home by yourself all the time? So that would be saying if your overlay, your destiny has to do with inspiration, it's going to force you to be out interacting with people, but you can be inspired and you can inspire people. There's also a continuum that goes with that, an arc that goes with that. And so at the other end of that arc, or the other end of that continuum, is, say, sadness or depression. So it's an opposite of what that overlay is. So your destiny in this lifetime will travel on that continuum, that it will go from, maybe inspiration and dip in for a while to depression and back over to inspiration and back over, because I don't like to refer to things as lessons because that has a negative connotation, but instead to learnings. I'm also a clinical hypnotherapist, so I've been around the block on mind sciences. And one of the things that I used to do is hypnotic regression. That's what I would do. And one of the things that I would ask people at the end of their past life is, what was the meaning and importance of this life to the soul? And the answers weren't, because I was going to go be a king, because I was going to be a celebrity, because I was going to be a writer. The answers were to, say, find out that anger hurts no one except for yourself. Yeah. That that there's a major responsibility to do with being a surgeon and having that power, over people. And so I didn't find any of the answers. I take that back. I think one of the answers did have to do, he was meant to be an astronaut. Okay. And I think he's actually one of the people that has finally come to his own now, because he is, with SpaceX, etc. That he now has an opportunity where, before astronauts, you had like 4 of them in 10 years or something, right?
Yeah.
And so now he really has that opportunity to go forward, and there is another purpose even in his being an astronaut, and I'm not really sure what exactly that purpose is. I don't think we've gotten that far.
Okay. Well, I'm sure we'll get into that and more after the commercial break. But after the commercial break, we'll be back with phone calls and chat questions. If you got questions for my guests, we'll mention the phone numbers after this message. But we'll be right back after the short commercial break.
Is a real thing, but some people think it doesn't exist. Science, logic, and reason sell us a pretty long list. They say time heals all wounds, but I'm not convinced. 'Cause I tried it once or twice, and 9 years later, my heart was still tense. Oh, I found out. Hope is coming for me now.
The weather is getting warmer and people are out and about. Well, if you love ghost hunting, now is the time to pick up some new gear. GhostStock.com has a wide variety of equipment to choose from, and one of those items is Blue Buddy. He's back. Talking bear every investigator wants on their team. Click on the Ghost Stop banner ad at the top of the show's website and pick up your Blue Buddy today. Go to spring.com and sign up to create your own design or choose from a design from one of the many creators on there. Spring has ways to integrate your store on social media, custom stores, and they have digital and physical products. While you're there, check out the Talk in the Night merch store. To get started with Spring today, click on the banner ad on the Talk in the Night website. Go to the show's website and click on the links for each of my guests and purchase a book or other product that they may be promoting. Without them, there would be no Talk in the Night. Whether you're interested in the paranormal, conspiracy, technology, health, relationships, or any other topic the show covers, my guests have something for you. Check it out today on TalkingTheNight.com.
Dance with me and then you'll see, in the desert where we can be free. You know that love is what you see, so it's time you hug me and kiss me, my love. Some firewood will warm you up, a bottle of wine and the talk won't stop. Be sure that I'll be here all night, so it's time you hug me and kiss me, my love.
To call into the show, Skype Talk in the Night or by phone at 817-717-1280. Now back to Talk in the Night with your host, Paranormal Phil. Okay, and we are back with my guest, Lindy Baker. Now, before I open up the phone lines, I do want to mention that you heard the numbers there using the Skype name Talk in the Night or by phone at 817-717-1280. Also, you can go over to Spreaker.com, sign up for a free account. Don't cost a thing. You don't have to record anything. You can click on the live show. You can join the chat. join the discussion. Sorry, I got hiccups and burps and all that good stuff, and not a good thing to have while you're doing a radio show, but can't stop it. Anyways, go over there, sign up for a free account. Don't cost a thing. You don't have to record anything. You can join the discussion, join the chat. I do interact with all my listeners. I do want to welcome Vicky. I want to welcome Nicole and Katina to the chat. And Vicky, I know Nicole, but Vicky says, love Lindy Baker. Her energy balancing has changed my life. Katina says, love Lindy. I've been seeing her for the past 6 months for energy balance, and she has changed my life. Suppressed energy blocks from childhood and adulthood, and been able to be cleared due to her gift of energy balancing. And of course, if you got questions, you can ask them in the speaker chat as well, and I will relay them, or you can call. Now, when you do call, I do ask that calls are no longer than 2 minutes, just because I don't know how many calls I might get, or if I even get any calls. But I do, like I said, I will take questions from the chat as well, which we do have a question from the chat from Nicole. I'm just trying to find it. Where was it? Okay, there it is. And Nicole wanted to know, do you work with Reiki healing?
No, I don't. I believe that there is some value to Reiki. I definitely believe that, but I also believe that you have to watch who is doing any of your energy balancing, including with Reiki balancing, because I have seen, if you understand the nature of the universe and the balance of energy, that if something is empty, it's got to fill up, and that things are neutralized in energy. So if you have somebody that is of a lower energy than you who's doing Reiki, they're going to suck off your energy, and they're going to feel really great, and you're going to feel drained. So if you do go to somebody for Reiki, I will watch for that.
Yeah, as I call them, psychic vampires. They love to steal the energy. And they don't have to be like me and you. There are people out there that, regardless of what they do, they have that energy about them that they just suck that energy out of you, and those are the people you got to avoid. But and it's not necessarily, I want to make this clear too, it's not necessarily that they're bad people. It has to do with energy balancing. If you take and you put 6 clocks on the wall, pendulum clocks, and you make the pendulum all go at different speeds, within a few minutes, all those pendulums will be swinging at the same speed, because we have a physical universe. So you can have somebody that's happy and they're nice and wonderful person. I just had one of those in for energy balancing, but their vibratory level is so low that they're going to suck yours out because yours is high. So I really wanted to point that out, because I think the word psychic vampire are misused a lot. But what I do is different than, it's similar to Reiki, but it's different. I found out that I had that ability when a friend of mine, it was a girls' night out, she was in high heels, she'd been drinking a little bit too much wine, she was coming out of another girl's house. She slipped on the grass and fell over a 6-foot cliff and landed on the ground. And I went down to see what I could do to help her, and something happened where I just automatically brought my hands up over her a couple of inches, and I felt this energy going down through my head and out my hands. And then when the ambulance finally got there, they couldn't believe that she wasn't in shock, and that she was laying there very peacefully, and she said that she was warm and she was fine, and she had a massive concussion.
So, and luckily no broken bones. But so then I went around and I tested it. Like my brother's dog had arthritis, so when nobody was looking, I, brought the energy down and put it on my brother's dog's butt, and so she was walking a whole lot better. And also, I had a Down syndrome niece, and I also was doing energy balancing on my niece and so on and so forth until I was able to convince myself that I wasn't just a crazy person, but that there absolutely was something that was happening with my energy. And it's also during that period of time that I found out that I'm a true empath too. And so what that means is when I'm in a reading with a person, say if your knee is hurting, my knee is going to start hurting in sympathy, and that's in empathy, and that's then I can actually, I will say in a reading, do you have this issue? Do you have an issue with your knee? Anyway, I hope that answers some of her question, and as she's practicing Reiki, good for you.
Okay.
People need it.
Yeah.
People need that energy.
Yeah. Now, I do, when we were talking earlier about things that we've seen in the future and stuff like that, I did want to ask, because one of the abilities of somebody that has psychic abilities is remote viewing. Have you done any remote viewing, and what have you might have seen?
Well, to me, that is the safe way for people to say that they're psychic. That the like the CIA actually used a couple of men for remote viewing, and so that made it okay. As far as I'm concerned, as a clairvoyant, that's exactly what I'm doing, is remote viewing, because I may say somebody's asking about their mom or their grandma. I actually am having a vision about where they are at that time and what that activity is, if the question has to do with that. So I believe everything that I do has remote viewing involved in it. To me, remote viewing was just a safe way for the government to say that they were employing psychics, because otherwise people would get really upset about that.
Yeah, that was
and I actually was approached. It was called Secret Source, and I was actually approached for that, but I was going through a divorce at the time, so I said thank you, but no, thanks, but no thanks. And I actually do have, and for a lot of people, you might even go and search there, because the CIA manual on remote viewing is something you can find online.
Yeah,
and download it for free.
People can look at Stargate program. I think that was one of the code names for it, if I remember correctly. But for me, like the one time that it trips out a lot of people that I've told, even the person that I even proved it to, it tripped them out like crazy. Like I said, grew up in Southern California, so I would go every weekend, just about every weekend, or at least once a month, twice every month, to Beverly Hills to the Omen House. And the first time that I went out there, I took my friend was driving, because he knew David Omen just by talking to him over the phone, on the internet, and but never met him in person. And all I knew of the location was the murders happened 150 feet away from his house. So he took me out there. My friend knew of my ability, and said, I want you to meet David Omen. And I said, okay, well, don't tell me anything about his house. I don't want to know. I don't want to be corrupted when I get there. And I said, that's all I want to know is the murders happen, because that was general knowledge, so I couldn't get away from that, that the murders happened 150 feet away from the house. But anyways, we're driving along. My friend's driving. I'm in the passenger seat doing the navigation, even though we knew where we were going until we got to Los Angeles. So we're in Pomona, and I pulled up Google Earth, and I said, let me look at the general area. just to see, make sure we don't have any special turns that we have to make or anything like that. Don't miss anything. And I pulled up Google Earth, I zoomed in, and I got the sudden urge, and I was frantically pointing to my phone and right next to his house, and I'm saying, right there, there's a portal to the spirit world. There's an opening where the energy is high there. And trying to show him while he's driving 8 miles per hour down the freeway. Pomona is probably about 40 miles away from his house in Beverly Hills. And again, I didn't know anything of the location. So he said, tell me when we get there. Or you can tell me now, but I prefer wait until we get there. So we get there and we pull up. I went to the spot that I was seeing on the map. And I said, this is where I was feeling that energy, and I can feel it right now. And I explained everything, and then we went up to the door and knocked on the door, and David came out. We talked to him, and then my friend Steve goes, tell David what you told me. So I went right back to the spot where I was pointing to at the map, and I explained everything to him. And David had this shocked look on his face like, how the hell did you know? Because where I was standing, a 5-gallon bucket of water that was full, tipped uphill, which is impossible without some kind of force when his house was being built, in the same exact spot that I was standing.
Mm.
And
So David Oman is a favorite of my friends from Unnormal Paranormal. I do a podcast with them for the last 5 years. And David Oman is one of his favorite people, and he's always trying to get me to go over there to David Oman's place that is Venice Beach, right?
No, it is in the hills of Beverly Hills. It's, from his house, you can actually see Dr. Phil's house. And he lives right across from Falcon Lair. So, for those that do not know, I forget the actor's name now, that own that property. But anyways, it's right in the hills of Beverly Hills, CLO Drive.
And I just had one of my friends text me here, and they said to tell you that you sound like Vin Diesel.
Trust me, I've gotten that quite a bit too. I used to work at an amusement park, and I got mistaken for Vin Diesel quite a bit. Trust me, I know. I got the bald head to go with it too. So I know
maybe
all about
you
that.
could go be what is that? Go to the celebrity look-alike.
Not unless
where they
Vin Diesel can put on about I want to say about 50 pounds and have a big old beer gut.
One never knows.
Yeah. No,
one never knows where nature's going to take you.
Yeah. So people have heard of the word intuition, but on your site you mentioned super intuition. What is super intuition?
To me, super intuition, when people usually talk about intuition, it is, to me, they're kind of afraid to get, I'm psychic, or, I have this ability. They talk about their gut feeling or their intuition. What I mean by super intuition is it's over and above intuition. That it's something, it's, again, kind of like being the opera singer of intuition. That it's at a higher level. And just to make it clear, I cannot jump over high buildings. I am not faster than a speeding bullet. But I am very good at what I do.
Okay. Now, I think it was the interview that you were doing. I can't remember offhand right now. But you mentioned a dream that had, I think it was on your website, but mentioned a dream that you had that made you start changing or charging for your service. Because like me, I try not to charge for the service. I'll take donations. Now, I did start doing a thing where I would do readings, but it never took off. Plus, I was too busy with the radio show and that kind of thing. I was going off in that direction. So, but what made you say, okay, let me start charging for the services that I do?
Well, for approximately 15 years, people would hear about me. And because I was raised Catholic, it's kind of like a long story. But because of the Catholic religion, it's like the rich shall not see God, different things like that. And especially being born with the capabilities I have, and people calling it psychic, and people having such a negative knee-jerk reaction in Ohio to anything like a psychic, that I would see people because I just felt like I was born to be of service to people, that the ability really didn't serve me, per se, in the way that it really served other people to help influence and change their life. And my goal was to create happy people and loving to be alive and being able to conquer the problems and their issues. So I couldn't turn the people away. I was so guilty about that. And more people heard about me. And I was working full-time. I was married with 2 kids, so I had all those responsibilities, etc. My husband was gone quite a bit. He had to travel for his work. And there was hardly any time, but I just could not bring myself to charge, because it's like I was buying into this superstitious negativity that said, well, if you take it, then you're bad, then you're one of them, then you're, one of those psychic kind
quite
of things.
a bit, especially in doing paranormal investigations.
Yeah, and so I just couldn't turn them away. I even had someone come like 11 o'clock at night. I was in bed. It was 2 people. The woman was in some kind of, trauma. And I said, hold on, I'll get coffee and let me come and talk to you. And it was really wearing and tearing on me, because I had this major conflict going. I would have a jar on my reading table that I called my God Fund. And so a lot of people would come and they would put money in the God Fund anyway. I used to have a doctor that would frequent me quite a bit, and he'd leave $200-300 in the jar. But I didn't feel like I could take it, like that I was alive, that, like maybe God would get all mad at me or something, and I took money. And so it became a really huge conflict. And more people would hear about me. More and more people came. It got to be even that I would open my front drapes of my living room, and the instant I did that was all these knocks at the door of people that were actually sitting in their car outside waiting for me to wake up, that it started to be, I couldn't even open my front drapes because I just couldn't be, seeing all these people. I needed to also be taking care of my family. And so this conflict went on for quite a while. And one day then I went, I dreamt, and it was what I call one of the prophetic dreams, which when I have a prophetic dream, it's like it's been very clear, colorful. The sound is like stereophonic. It feels like you're actually there. And in this dream, it's like angel, God, whatever fits in with your beliefs, came and said, concert musician, they have a gift and they charge for it. A carpenter, they have a gift, they charge for it. And then it flashed this psalm. I can't remember. It was something out of the Bible, and it wasn't like, I wasn't raised where you're looking for Bible quotes all day, every day.
Yeah, I think your website meant Psalms 128.
And and so I actually, Psalms 128. So I actually got out of bed. It was the dream woke me up, because it was so profound. And so I actually had to go look for where my Bible was, and then I pulled out the Bible and, of course, read that. And and when I went back to bed again, I actually continued with some of the dream. And so I realized then that just because I was gifted didn't mean that I had to be broke. That, you know, as the dream said, a musician gets paid for it, you know, a comedian gets paid for it, blah, blah, blah. And so I started charging $10. And I thought that would drive people away. But what it did is it brought even more people, because you have those people that didn't want to take advantage of me. You know, they didn't want to feel like that they were using me or infringing on my time or anything. So paying $10, they were fine with that. And so I ended up having even more people, to the point that I quit my day job.
I tell people,
then it became my full-time business.
Yeah, I tell people that, I mean, the reason why I charge now is because I learned that I'm using my energy to do these readings, and I'm not. It takes a lot out of me using my energy to do these readings and stuff like that. So that's why I charge. And I mean, I would love to help people for free, but that energy use, it takes it out of me. Especially when you got like 100 freaking spirits coming around you during a seance at David Ullman's house and being like, "Can you get your message? Can you get our message out? Can you get our message out?" It's like, shut up.
Yeah, everybody wants to know all about them. So I don't even look at it as that you're paying to use my energy. I look at it more that you're, and I feel that I keep my rates super low. And this is the reason why, is because so that people find value in what I do. And the people that really need me aren't these people that are millionaires or making, you know, $100,000, $200,000 a year. The people who really need me are middle-income people that need somebody that can give them advice and direction on how to have the very best life that they can have. And I feel that with all my training and my abilities that they get that. I find it difficult. I see other psychics. I've had people go see some psychic, pay him $300, pay him $1,000, and come back and tell me how much better I was than them. But I just don't have it in me to raise my prices to $300 for a half an hour or something like that, like other people do. Yeah. But I look at it that my landlord doesn't care that I'm gifted.
Yeah,
they want my rent.
Yeah, that's all they care about is that dollar bill.
Care that I'm gifted. And I had somebody come one time. They were from Romania, and they said, if you were in my country, your home, your car, your food, anything and everything that you need would be provided for you by the people in the community in order to support you, so you could simply function on doing what it is that you do for the people.
Wow.
And I thought, wow, well, that maybe I could move to Romania.
Let me move there now. All right. Go ahead. I was just about to say we're about ready to go to commercial break, but we got 1 minute before we go to break.
So do we have any callers jingling on the lines over there?
No, nothing yet, and only one question. But if you do have a question for my guest, we're going to take a quick commercial break here in a moment. But if you do have a call, like I said, after the last commercial break, do keep the calls under 2 minutes and everything if you got questions for my guest. Or you can pop in the chat, speaker chat. Again, I got Katina, Nicole, and Vicky in there, and I don't know if anybody else is listening that might be in the chat that's not saying hi, but please do pop in there, say hi, let me know you're listening. I do interact with all my listeners. But we'll be right back after the short commercial break with my guest Lindy Baker as we continue talking about psychic abilities and so much more. We'll be right back.
'Cause I got everything we need just to change the future. You know it's buried deep inside our chest. If we weren't so fire, would warm your world. A bottle of wine and the talk won't stop. Be sure that I'll be here.
to land on my glass rays. It all breaks the same. I'm up in the airplanes, looking for airplanes, destined to make a change. So I jump towards the sea. Yachts in the ocean, like God is the potion. It's all just emotion. Do you see what I see? I see a star.
Do you need music for your radio show, podcast, or YouTube channel but need a music license to play it on your show? Well, go to artlist.io and check out the plans they have. They have 3 plans to choose from: personal, unlimited, and enterprise. All the music that you hear on the show is from Artlist, and there is a banner ad on the show's website. Check it out today. Do you love the strange, unusual, and weird unexplained mysteries? Do you like reading about the paranormal and other happenings? Well, I have the website for you, unexplainedmysteries.com. On there you will find so much, such as the latest news and articles, forums, news with video, and so much more. That's unexplained-mysteries.com, or you can click on the banner ad on the show's website to take you right there. Do you love history? Do you wonder what happened on this day in history? Well, check out history.com/this day in history and find out what happened on this day in recorded history. You can also click on the image on the Talk of the Night website under This Day in History and check out one of the many things that happened. The show's website lists a different event in history every day, so check it out today.
Like a fire, like a flood. That's how I feel your love. In my bones, in my blood. It's high time.
To call into the show, Skype Talk in the Night or by phone at 817-717-1280. Now back to Talk in the Night with your host, Paranormal Phil. Okay, and we are back in the last segment of the show with my guest, Lindy Baker. Now, real quick before we get back with her, also I want to mention you can call in, ask your questions, use the Skype name Talk in the Night, or by phone at 817-717-1280, or go over to Spreaker.com, sign up for a free account. It don't cost anything. You don't have to record anything. Join the discussion. Join the chat. I do interact with all my listeners. You can ask your questions that way. Now, if you do call in, please do keep the calls to a minimum of no more than 2 minutes, just in case we get a flood of calls, which could happen anytime, but I always want to make sure that I'm prepared for that. And also, do not be rude to any my guests, the listeners, or myself, because that will get you hung up on pretty quickly. So, the phone lines are open. Again, Tina, Nicole, and Vicky are in the chat, as far as I know. So I do want to welcome them to the chat and everything. Now, I do want, before the break, we were talking about a number of things, but we were talking about David Ullman, and he used to do ghost tours for people. Before he did that, I investigated his house before that, and I've been to his house over 200 times. But have you ever been on a paranormal investigation? And if so, what was that like?
Yes, I have. That was more of many, many years ago. And I stopped with that again, here's another one of my long stories. But at the time that I started really discovering energy and all of the various areas of energy within the universe, is when I transitioned into more of a thought that most of what people think are ghosts aren't ghosts. They're holograms. And it's easier to explain in this day and age because now you have smartphones and you can just hold that smartphone up, hit video, and you can create a video of something that's going on. And 20 years ago, you couldn't do that. And what I discovered, it was as a result of working with the Pomona Police Department that they asked me to go out on an investigation with a woman that had been stabbed a multitude of times. And the detective that I was going out with really didn't like the idea that he was being assigned to have anything at all to do with a psychic. But since it was the captain that mandated that they take me, he didn't really have a choice. And I did pick up that he was going to mess with me if he could to make me, look like I was wrong about things. So as we got to the site, he went to the right and expected me to follow him, but I looked up in the sky and what I saw was looked like silver gnats kind of flying up in the air some distance up, and I just found myself so curious and totally pulled to it that I actually did believe it was one of those destiny kind of things that I go look at that day. And I went through bushes and everything, couldn't go through fast enough, scratching my legs up, my arms up, everything else. And when I got there, it wasn't gnats. And what it was exactly one of these holograms. And what I discovered that day is that everything that we feel that is powerful emotion attaches to the atoms and molecules, and that can create a hologram that it lives on just like a video lives on in your camera, but it's a video that has been created on the atoms and molecules by this huge amount of emotional energy that we put out. And since this woman was stabbed, I think it was like 165 times, obviously, she was putting out quite a bit of emotional energy. And so as I stepped into this area where this beam me up Scotty kind of Star Trek-y looking kind of stuff was, what I saw was very fast moving kind of bam, bam, bam picture, video kinds of things. And I saw and felt everything that she felt as she was dying. And it was happening so fast that she really didn't feel the pain that by the time that she was realizing what was happening to her, she was already dead. But one of the things that I did extricate from all of that as I stood there was that I saw an orange Volkswagen, and I was able to catch only the last three letters, I think it was, of the license plate. And it turned out with that information that the captain was able to track down anything that had to do with an orange Volkswagen and her. And it turned out that she had a lady who was lesbian, even though she was straight, that was like a stalker kind of a person, and that was the person who had killed her, and that this orange Volkswagen had everything to do with the energy. So when I walked away from that experience, of course, I have a very highly analytical mind, and I was really obsessed in thinking about the whole thing. And like I said, we didn't have smartphones then, so the idea that you could just, something could create itself like that, what was really something I had to figure out. And so what I figured out in a lot of these haunted houses, that it's really not a spirit, it's really not a ghost. And for one of the things, because ghosts can go anywhere that they want to, I see and speak to spirits, and that's even what they tell me, and that they don't have any reason to hang out at a graveyard when they can go to Bora Bora, they can go to Tahiti, they can go to Alaska, they can go anywhere that they want to in this reality, so why would they hang around in a graveyard?
Yeah,
And
that's
what
what
really
David
is
has
there,
mentioned before about people. Why would they want to be hanging out where they're buried at? And they
right,
will go there if you're there to visit them and stuff like that, but they're not going to hang out there.
right. That's very true. And they can come and go, and they do have a fantastic, good sense of humor. If they had a robust personality on Earth, they retain that robust kind of personality. And so I find that there's a really big difference between a hologram and a person. So like at the graveyard, yeah, there's a lot of holograms there. You might think it's ghosts, but just think about how miserable the person is standing there over the loss of their loved one, especially maybe if it was, a real tragic and unexpected happening, that the amount of emotional energy that they're going to put out is going to be huge, and that creates a hologram. And so if you do have a spirit and it's always in the same room, in the same corner, or whatever, you can pretty well figure that's a hologram. And I do believe with those, if you go get the specialized equipment, because I've done it, if you go get specialized recording equipment, that you can actually hear whatever sounds were trapped into that hologram. You can hear things that were going on with it. And taking that up even to another level, I want to dovetail into, so that was way back, I think, early 90s that happened. And it takes us to where I've really done this study about energy ever since then. And that brings us to my emotion code, or my emotional release energy balancing. Because that same level of emotion, when you feel deep emotion like that, it gets stuck in your auric field. It gets stuck in your energy field. And so that can create addictions. It can create depression, sadness. I have 60 different emotions that I work with. And so those emotions can get trapped in your energy field. And once you have a session and we start removing them, and I have a technique that I use, when we start removing those emotions, that people start feeling, happier. The way many clients have put it is they feel that their emotions are now organized. It's almost like you realize what you want to spend time being dramatic over and what you don't want to spend time being excessively emotional over. It's fantastic. I love doing it because I see such fantastic results in people, and it isn't a one-shot thing that you do. I do think you could feel better after you have one time, but I really do recommend a minimum of 3 months, maybe every week, getting the energy balancing, because by that time, you're going to have so much stuff cleared out that people express being giddy for no reason, and much easier to make decisions and plan career things. And it affects even family members, because there's a thing that's called inherited trapped emotion. And so that's emotion that's been passed on through your DNA, through all your the history of your family. And so I also identify that and to remove that emotion from the DNA. And as a result of that, it will affect your mom, dad, brother, sister, aunt, uncle, your kids, your grandkids. And you will actually, a lot of people have seen these changes in the people around them. I have several clients that I work with, and they've had troubled children, from ages, from even 9 and up, but from people who had, difficulties with addictions and those kind of things. And they've actually, without talking to the kid about it, had these experiences where the kid just kind of had a wake-up call and said, I don't think I want to do drugs anymore. I don't think I want to drink anymore. I've got one man, I'm just so happy about him. He'd been in and out of jail since he was 12 or 13 years old. And he was a drug addict. He was an alcoholic. He was, the family was all pissed because he would steal from them. They bought new bikes for Christmas. He stole those and sold them. And he was in his 30s. And so I heard about him through his sisters. I invited him to 2 free sessions to be able to work with him. Where he's at 1 year later, just even after 2 sessions, is he's gone clean. He holds a full-time job now. He went and got custody of his kids back. He got sole custody of his kids back. He's just really super cleaned up his life, and there's just this amazing difference. And I don't take credit for it. I say to the people that they had the insight to come and get this energy balance. He came. I've offered it to other
they didn't
people.
have to show up.
I'll do this for free. And I'm sorry?
I was saying they didn't have to show up, but they had the free will to choose to come and see you.
Right. So he came, yeah. I have other people I offer free of charge, and they don't come. To me, that makes no sense whatsoever. And so he came, and when I look at his life, I'm just filled with so much joy because we've got a guy that's happy now. In fact, one of the things that he said in a text to me is, I love myself now. I'm happy with my life now. I've got my kids. I got a job. I never knew life could feel as good. And so what a fantastic thing for me to feel. I love, like I said, I absolutely love doing this because of the effect that it has on people, that people don't realize how much their emotions really affect them. And so they don't just affect them on a psychological level, but they actually affect them on very much of a physical level, because those emotions, that energy gets trapped in, it gets trapped. And so it's like carrying around a bunch of baggage behind you everywhere that you go, even from the time that you were born. I've had people, I have a woman popping into my mind right now that her mom was always pretty tough, not much for hug, kiss, and emotion, and she just taught her mom how to text on her smartphone that she bought her, and the mom is sending her messages like, I can't tell you how much I appreciate you. Her mom, when she sees her in person now, is hugging her, expressing emotion. And so to me, it's because we were removing that inherited, trapped emotion. So it also affects, the people around us.
Yeah.
And so I would encourage anybody, sign up for energy balancing, be happy.
Yeah. Now, we're kind of close to the end here and starting to get ready to wrap up things, but I do have one last question before we do wrap up things. And I do ask all my guests a devil's advocate question. I do love doing this because it throws my guests off their game. It's just something I do. But what I do, like I said, I do ask everybody a devil's advocate question no matter what the topic is. And I want to ask, how do you know that what you are seeing or hearing is not something that your mind is making up?
It's been proven to me time after time after time. That's how I could say that as the September 11th kind of thing was coming down, of course I question it. And I wonder if it's just fantasy or if my mind is just making it up. But all through my childhood, when those kind of things happened, that I would take note if my mind was telling me this or that or the other thing. I do what I call, what I call a stream of consciousness, is where you sit down and you don't write what your mind is doing, you write what you're hearing, what you're listening for, and your mind will talk to you. And so I would do a diary like that, where I would say this, this is going to happen or that's going to happen. And in doing that, what I found also that, say if I missed on something, that then I could go, oh, I see where I went wrong on that. I see where I misinterpreted this sign, or was just because what I was hoping for, along those lines. And then also, it's always helpful when you have clients that get back and go, girl, you nailed that one.
Yeah. All right. Well,
so you get more confident in what you're doing.
Yeah. Now, we are almost out of time here, so I do want to start wrapping up things with you. So where can people find out more about you and the services that you offer?
The best place is lindybaker.com. That's LINDYBAKER.com. I have articles, podcasts, pricing, all kinds of good stuff there. I have a lot of teaching kinds of articles and podcasts that are up there for anybody that's interested in these kind of things, about explanations about energies and so on and so forth. I would say that's the best place, but if you want to email me, it's lindy@lindybaker.com. You can also find me on Facebook at Clairvoyant Psychic on Facebook. On Twitter, it's at Lindy Baker. On Instagram, it's at Lindy Baker. So, and you can always just Google me, and you'll find my phone number and a lot of my goodies up there.
Okay. And also, I did notice that you have a book out called Creating the Love Box, which we didn't get into. Like I said, when I talked to you before the show, I create like 5 hours worth of questions to where I can take it, but sometimes I don't get to as many as I think I can. But I wanted to give you a chance to kind of tell people what that book is about and where they can get it.
Well, that book is available on Amazon, and it's Creating a Love Box, which you can actually make a physical love box, and it's a very short book because it's more of a manual. It's more of an instruction manual, and what I instruct you in is specific things that you're going to put into this quote love box, and it's a way to build your own self-esteem, and so that when you are having like your down days, or maybe you got to do a big speech and you're nervous about it or whatever, that you can go to this box, and what you have in there is reminders of things that you've succeeded at. And I've given it to many, many of my people that are executives, managers, and they've come back and told me, wow, that they actually did what was in the book, and it really did help them look at their own success, their own self-worth differently, and that many of them do keep a love box maybe on their computer as a specific file, and then they go in there, and especially if you're under attack, when we're on social media and the internet, you get those things that are called trolls, and you're famous when you get your own troll.
Yeah.
So and so they say that they'll go on and look at what they have put into their love box to remind them of what all that they've come through and what a good person that they are. And the love box is only all about you. You're only allowed to put stuff in there that's all about you. And like I said, it's a training manual, so it's very specific. I'm very specific about what to put in there. And the way the book works best is if you actually do it. It's not a book you're going to get and read. Yeah. It is a book you got to do it.
Okay, well,
thank you for asking.
Yeah, I did want to let you promote that. Now, I do want to thank you for coming on the show and everything like that. And for those listening to the show, if you want to go to Lindy's website at the top of the Talk of the Night website, talkofthenight.com, there is a banner ad up there. You just click on that. It'll take you right to the website. You can find out all about her services and her book and everything like that. So I want to thank you again for coming on the show and talking about this.
Thank you.
And tomorrow,
Thank you for having me.
yeah, it was a pleasure having you. And tomorrow night we have my guest, Kristen Micklethwaite, and I hope I pronounced that right, but I'm sure I'll find out tomorrow. As we talk about her book, The Ghost Marriage, which focuses on the destruction of her marriage and the devastating divorce, but with a paranormal aspect at the end of the book that enables her to forgive her ex-husband and move on with her life. We'll get into that tomorrow with her. Now, she sent me an email saying that 3/4 of the book is not paranormal related, but as you know, if you listen to my show for quite a while, you know I cover other topics besides the paranormal. I do like to get into different things. So we're going to talk to her about the first 3/4 of the book, and then we're also going to get into that last quarter of the book that does have the paranormal, because I do feel that everything, no matter what you talk about, whether it's politics or whether it's dating relationships or something like that, there's always a paranormal aspect to it. Also, be sure to follow the show on all the show's social media sites: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, Discord, YouTube. You can find all the links up there on the Talk of the Night website. Now, LinkedIn is more of a networking site for me, so I don't do much with that, but there is a link there, a small link. But my main social media sites, like I said, like, subscribe, follow: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Discord, and YouTube. And of course, if you go to the website, you can find out what's coming up on the show. You can hear past shows. You can find out all about the guests that I've had on, the story of the day, this day in history, what's coming up, so much more. So I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Be sure to like this episode and share it with all your friends and family. Again, I want to thank Vicky, Katina, and Nicole for popping in the chat. Again, if you listen to this live or whether you listen to a recording, be sure to pop in during the show and ask questions. Or if you got questions for Friday night, which I will mention real quick before we head out of here. Friday night, I do have a giveaway where I'm going to give one lucky listener a chance to win a t-shirt, which is up on the Talk of the Night merch store, which is on the website, linked up to the website. So be sure to tune in. The question that you have to answer and you have to call in live relates to one of my guests this week, and I will not come up with the answer or the question and the answer until until Thursday night, maybe Friday morning. So I don't have the answer yet, so you can't kind of read my mind or anything like that. So thank you all for tuning in, and until tomorrow night when I welcome my guest, Kristen Micklethwaite, I shall see you on the dark side. Good night from Talking the Night.
Late at night, darkness has fallen. Turn on the radio, and you hear him talking. Listening to what he has to say, all about the paranormal and all of the things. When he sounds off, you can hear him say,